Hello, this is Photography Gamer. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm reviewing Tom Clancy's The Division 2 Warlords of New York Ultimate Edition. The game is available on PC and all major consoles. Tom Clancy's The Division 2 is an online strategic arcade looter shooter developed by Massive Entertainment. This version includes the base game, the Warlords of New York expansion DLC, a level 30 boost, 8 exclusive missions, instant unlocks of 6 endgame specializations, and the battle-worn first responder and elite agent packs, 1 exclusive emote, and outfit. The base game is set in Washington DC during the Green Poison pandemic, and the DLC is set in the streets of New York. Your mission as part of the strategic Homeland Division is to overthrow hostile militia, defeat enemy warlords, and rebuild the city. The game is online only, but can be played solo. Okay, gameplay. The Division 2 is primarily a cover-based shooter, but with an arcade twist. It's definitely not rooted in realism, as enemies will take several shots to drop, and even if you shoot them in the head, they still don't go down. So the enemies are definitely of the arcade bullet sponge variety. Cover is really the key aspect of any skirmish, as if you're out in the open for too long, you'll just be dead soon. You can barrel run from cover to cover a la Gears of War, and being successful is usually a result of flanking, repositioning, and general tactical awareness of your enemy's position. The enemies do keep you on your toes though, as they mix up their tactics from one encounter to the next. Some will rush at you like crazed wild men, some will snipe from distant cover, and others will use projectiles, turret placement, heavy weapons, or their own flanking maneuvers. And in solo mode, the skirmishes feel like you're in the trenches, as without backup it can get overwhelming. The game has a huge emphasis on loot, and you'll constantly be finding caches throughout the city, whether they've been dropped by enemies or not. You'll find gadgets, you'll find armor, new weapons, you'll be mixing and matching your gear as you find like the perfect combination. And I'd say weaponry is something the Division 2 does very well indeed. You've got 2 main weapons. You've got a sidearm, projectiles, deployable skills. You can use turrets, drones, etc. You've got many armor slots, and each piece of gear has its own unique rating. And guns can be sold to traders. You can dismantle them for raw parts. Raw parts can then be used to craft new schematics or mods, which make things more effective. And like I said, the mods, they're a game changer. They allow players to really tweak the weapon that they're using, whether it's the barrel, the magazine, the scope, the muzzles, etc.
That rifle pack's quite a kick. There's nothing else like it.
Guns can also be upgraded, but I'd say the system is quite poorly thought out. It ends up just being more hassle than it's worth. And finally, you can add new skills to your loadout. There's a quartermaster, go there, helps improve things like carry capacity, etc., other aspects. Okay, well, what about the actual game world, Washington DC? Well, it feels like a lived-in war zone that's caught in the midst of a civil conflict. As you explore these derelict streets, you'll encounter random events, skirmishes, patrolling friendlies or enemies, and there's friendly settlements also that you can do some work for. But what about the campaign? Well, there's not a real great deal of variety. Every mission did kind of feel exactly the same. Visit a courtyard, kill enemies, infiltrate a structure, clear room by room until you reach the boss room, kill the boss, and you're done. And they don't really deviate from that formula too much, but it is addictive, don't get me wrong. It could have been better, as could have the narrative, I'd say. Most of the characters' voice acting is quite bland and forgettable. It doesn't ruin the game, but it does kind of make the missions feel a bit superfluous. Now, once you reach kind of end game level, you can specialise your loadout even further with advanced gear, and you've also got these raids that you can go on that are only for end game content players. Now, for me, one of the best features of the game is the enemy AI. They really do mix up strategies, like I said, and it's better than so many other games where it's all just like the same thing for every enemy. They don't just stand there, they use tactics, and it really brings the game alive. Now, this is an online game, right? So you might be thinking, is it worth getting if I just want to play it solo? Well, the short answer to that is absolutely yes. I think I played probably 75% of the main campaign on my own, 25 with friends, and I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, there were times, you bite off more than you can chew, but that's when you call in your support and you get some allies to join you for the tougher challenges. Now, there are PvP matches that you can drop in and out of. I didn't really bother too much with that, but it's there. And there's a couple of other features like dark zones that support up to 12 players. Basically, they're very tough zones where you can acquire special loot. So overall, I'd say it's a very comprehensive experience. There's lots to do, very attainable endgame, loot galore, enjoyable missions, albeit predictably similar. Now, the DLC, Warlords of New York. This sees you go back to the location of the first game as you investigate the city, help out settlements, assassinate warlords one by one, blah blah blah. For this, you can create a new agent if you want. You can boost them to game level 30 if you don't want to grind through the base game first, but be warned, if you do start the DLC with a new agent, you won't be able to visit Washington until you've completed the DLC. You can't go back and forth until you've finished it. Now, the map for the DLC is not as big as Washington, obviously, but it's definitely more tight and narrow in regard to the street-based combat. There's 3 districts, you've got Battery Park, 2 bridges and the financial zone. The one thing I would say about the map is it doesn't feel as active as the main campaign, as in there weren't as many random events occurring. There are communities that you can help like there are in the base game, but the main goal, like I said, is to kill the warlords. And I'd say the variety in the DLC missions is an improvement on the base game. In particular, bosses. They do mix up their tactics a lot and it makes for some very impressive boss fights.
You've got him where you need him, Agent. Time to end that bastard.
Now, as with before, you can continue to mod your weapons and use special items, including rogue skills acquired from the bosses. The other major addition included in this DLC is the Summit. The Summit is like a 100-story skyscraper for level 40 players only. Basically, you've got to clear each floor one at a time and work your way to the summit. It sounds good, right? It does. It sounds like, oh, that sounds really cool, like an endless tower almost. But it's just a bit dull, frankly. It doesn't quite do what it says on the tin. It's just, they could have done more with it, I think, but it's a nice addition. So yeah, in summary, decent campaign for the DLC, probably last 10 to 12 hours. Add that to the base game, you've got plenty of content here to get your teeth into. Okay, graphics, well, the game I'd say does a good job of recreating a sense of civil conflict. The cities look great, there's lots of small details add to the character and the immersion. Animation is solid, outfits, weapons look good. There's also a good photo mode for photo mode enthusiasts. You can't pause the game, obviously it's online, but you can still take photos. Sound and music are really good across the board, but voice acting I'd say is a bit second rate. But again, the story, it's okay. It's not a game for, I don't really recall much of the story, I recall the action. Okay, the good and the bad points. What's good? It's easy to get to grips with and has a satisfying and addictive game loop. The leveling system means you're always making progress. The combat has an interesting mix between arcade and strategy. The cities are well imagined. The gun variety and modding options are good. Online multiplayer is well optimized. And the Ultimate Edition has a massive amount of content that's really worth playing through. Bad points. The story isn't great. The voice acting isn't great either. And the missions are essentially copy-paste jobs, although they are addictive. Okay, verdict. Tom Clancy's The Division 2 Warlords of New York Ultimate Edition. What a catchy title. It's an addictive and simple game that offers a huge array of action to get your teeth into. Whether played solo or co-op, it always throws something new at you in terms of skirmishes, despite all the missions ultimately being the same. Despite the deja vu, it is very enjoyable. It's got a good open world, good progression, lots of loot, strategy, and lots of fun. Yes, if you play it every day, you'll start to notice holes in the game, but for pure arcade gunplay, it is really one of the better ones out today. I enjoyed it, the base game was great, post-completion content was good to keep me on board, and the Warlords of New York DLC also really entertaining. Okay, so scoring. Tom Clancy's The Division 2 Warlords of New York Ultimate Edition, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's a very, very good package, one that I enjoyed, one I would recommend. Okay, that's the review. Thank you for watching. This is PG signing off. Cheers.